Okay, Christian, this could be the last season Manchester City fans see the great Pep Guardiola on the touchline at the Etihad. David Ornstein has dropped this absolute bomb today that this could be
Yeah,
his last season, and he seems to have been on the 1 year extensions for quite a while.
yeah.
A lot to unpack here, obviously, the timing. But firstly, talk to me about what it's been like for you as a City fan to have this guy as your coach. 10 seasons of it compared to his stints at other clubs.
Yeah.
What has it been like having Pep Guardiola as Manchester City manager after the years of struggles that you had?
It feels like we won the lottery, Alex. All I can compare it to is very similar to when we got Erling Haaland and he picked us. Nobody expected that it would last this long. From day one, he changed everything about this club. He has gone from the roots to the top, and he has changed. And to be quite honest, he's changed everything in English football from grassroots. I
Yeah.
think he's going to leave a serious imprint on English football and the way we play now. We've seen it going in different patterns, but for sure, Pep Guardiola, you've got young lads trying to play Pep Guardiola, play it out from the back style football at age 10. You know what I mean? Has there ever been a manager in English football that has gone that deep into the roots? Do you know what I mean? And I really don't think that
Yeah.
has been, in fairness. There's some great managers that have factually going to have more titles because they had longer stints in England, but I'm talking about going deep into the roots and how they changed the way this game was played. For me, is incredible.
Yeah. I mean, what is it? Obviously, his influence, but like, as far as like what he's delivered on the pitch, what is it that makes him? Because I know you can point to the money spent, and that's obviously a perk of being the manager of Manchester City. But what is
Yeah.
it that's made him spend it better, or even when he's not spent it perfectly, still the well-oiled machine is rearing its head now? And like,
Yeah.
what is it about? What can he galvanise from the squad year in year out? And what is it about his setup that makes it so difficult to beat over a 38 game?
I think I'm glad you've asked this question. Pep Guardiola is one of the best managers at reinventing players, getting the best out of them, getting something out of them that no other manager could even think to do with them. For instance, Raheem Sterling. Look at that guy now. Do you know what I mean? No one even talks about Raheem Sterling, or if unless he's getting memed. Now, what Pep Guardiola made him into, arriving late into the box, getting on the end of crosses, made him a 20 goal a year striker slash winger. What he could do with players that you would never think would be capable of succeeding in that way. And I think that's what the big difference was, and that's what we're going to miss. You know, you look at what he's done with the likes of Bernardo Silva, Leroy Sané when we got him, a raw talent. You know, now Cherky is the new breed. And I think we take for granted when we sign these players. And the thing I've always come to you with, Alex, whenever we're linked with someone, or whenever I like the look of a player and City are then ready to, pursue that, I can't wait to see what Pep can do with this guy,
Yeah.
what Pep can turn this guy into. And I think that's the most crushing thing, that's going to leave us. And it's going to be more like it feels like losing our invisibility cloak in a way, and we become a bit of a mere mortal. That's honestly the best way I could put it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fantastic analogy. I think, yeah, I mean, talk to me as well, like, just before we move on to, the actual facts of him leaving, and I know this is a bit more like, maybe we should be doing this when he's actually leaving, but
Yeah.
because he's been flirting so much with it, and I just can't imagine these leaks, Ornstein, there's got to be concrete to this,
Yeah.
and that obviously means that if he isn't going to go in the summer, he's on the brink, maybe one more year. But before we do get into that, talk to me about why, and I know United fans aren't going to like this, why has Guardiola been able to get these insane point totals in comparison to fantastic coaches? In fairness, Klopp is one of them that has come close as well. On 2 occasions, Klopp came very close. What is it that makes his brand of football? And people have always spent money. That's not necessarily always it. And Guardiola's done it He's sustainably done this, where he's got obviously 100. He's been high 90s. He's regularly in the 90s on these league wins. Why is it that he rarely wins at like 82? What's the difference between an 83 and a 99 season? Why does Pep manage to do that at a better clip than anyone else?
I think first of all, the respect he commands and the expectations when you signed for a Pep Guardiola club, whether that would have been while he's been at Manchester City, Bayern Munich or Barcelona, I think it's different to every other coach in world football, I've got to be honest. I think when a player steps through the door, you look at the way, I mean, even Cherky is a recent example, he strips the weight off him straight away. It's like, no, you're going to play here, you're going to do it my way. It's my way or the highway, and it's been that way from the start, and it has been successful. I think the expectations that he puts in place, and that you either meet it or you leave. And that doesn't matter, even if you're a star boy, even if you're a Leroy Sané, if you're not willing to work, mate, you're gone. It doesn't really matter. It's nothing off my nose. And I think no other manager commands that. It's a bit like Sir Alex Ferguson. When he did that, he had the same aura. And I think that was a dying breed. And I think Pep is one of the last of his kind. Pep and Fergie were very different, don't get me wrong. But the one thing they were the same, they held their values. And if you didn't match up with their values, you were gone. And I think that's...
I think there's similarities between the both pair of them, actually. But I know exactly what you're talking about, obviously, set up, style, play, tactics like that. What is it tactically that makes him more of a 100-point 97, 98 than other great coaches? Like, if you compare it to Fergie, for example, and now I'm not like... There's things that I think Fergie can do better than Pep in instances of coaching shit up teams to titles. But when you're given your best squad, right? Pep Guardiola gets his 5-star squad. He's had a couple of them, probably you would say. Obviously the treble, and then he had the Centurion. Those two sides. What makes it that Guardiola can get nearly 100 points? Another, you mentioned the word mortals, get more 89, 90. What is it that makes Guardiola's setup and approach to the game so much more overwhelming point total wise?
I think the best way I can say this is just referring back to Ferguson. Ferguson could get a diamond out of a rock, and I feel like Pep can make that diamond the most flawless diamond in the world and the most priceless. And I feel like they've got very different things about them, but that's where I feel the main thing is. And with Pep, when he gets them all on side, and when he gets them, say these lads that when we were building the team that went on to win the treble, and Centurions just before that, it felt like there was a coming of age. He was building all these young breeder players, so he had Bernardo Silva, he had Raheem Sterling, he had Leroy Sané, De Bruyne, and it felt like once he gets that team together and they're gelling, and after the first season and them expectations are in place and all them core values, I feel like once they're singing from the same hymn sheet, they are unstoppable. And that was the difference in terms of us going 100 points. It did just go to another level, and I think Pep is better at unlocking those doors than a lot of other managers. I don't feel like they're capable of going to that next level. They can win titles, but I feel like to get to that place where you're putting your name in the history books, it's difficult. And I feel like it's going to be...
do you think it's very like playbook-esque? Like, what I loved about Fergie is that there was elements of chaos to his games. I saw highlights of the Roma 7-1 game at Old Trafford from 2007. And each goal was different. It wasn't like... Don't get me wrong, Fergie liked to play quick. You play forwards. You don't play forwards, you come off. If you see a runner and don't hit him, you're coming off. If you don't put a good cross in when you've got opportunity, you're coming off. But it was like each of those goals against Roma was like... It wasn't... I feel if Guardiola beat someone 7-1, I honestly reckon 6 out of the 7 are very similar, and maybe one worldy. With the Fergie, there was elements of the Old Trafford chaos, counter attack, transition play. What is it? Is it the playbook that makes it so machine like with Guardiola, where it's like, this is the playbook. We play like this at Anfield. We play like this at Bolton. We play like this at Bury. We do this wherever we are, and that's why the rinse repeat becomes so workmanlike in a way. Obviously, it's a lot. I'm probably playing it down a little bit, but you get my point of the players, even the squad players, can do it with their eyes shut. Is that where you get the extra 15 points a season in your best seasons, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. And just like what you were saying then, I feel like your style of football, when you could put teams away in that era, and similar to Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool when they were in the pomp, it's a bit like the famous heavy metal versus the Pavarotti. And I feel like what he did was, you can, with them heavy metal teams, you can have them games where you blow teams away. What Pep put in place was he could systematically defeat the opponent week in, week out, and he knew he had something they could not cope with no matter what. So yeah, it might be 2-0 one week, it might be 4-0 the next, but the one thing that was never in doubt was the result in them seasons, and that's where I feel like that difference was. He created, it might be a boring answer, Alice, but it's cohesion within the squad. And he built something where you made an interesting point. Doesn't matter whether it was a squad player coming in and he might only get 10 minutes at the end of the game. He knew exactly the playbook that he was coming onto. With every touch, I hear a lot of like ex-players that have spoke about Pep Guardiola and current players as well in interviews, and they say the meticulous detail that this guy goes into within football and in-game management is insanity. Things that other managers wouldn't even think of. So obviously, sometimes this guy, it can be his kryptonite as well. You know, at the end of the day, he has overthought situations, which has resulted in Lyon putting us out in the Champions League. But then you think, well, if you're going to play this over a season, he's also the guy that overthought that much. But the result was 4 Premier Leagues in a row, which no other manager's ever done before. So
yeah, I mean, individual games, anybody can come into them and make mistakes as a coach. There's no doubt about that. I think it's very overwhelming. I think lesser opposition struggle to do anything and make themselves a nuisance against Guardiola. I think I've said it to you before. I think his style of play, and I can tell you a pattern of play off the top of my head from Guardiola. Really, whether it's he went with that stone centre mid shit for a bit, whether it's 4-3-3, 4-5-1, 3-1, 4-2, whatever it was. Those things for me never change, where I know he's going to look for overloads in the wide areas. He's going to try and have a goal scorer in the middle. He's going to have shooting from the edge of the box. They're going to put crosses in. Guardiola likes to cross the ball as well. Obviously, De Bruyne helped on that because he was one of the best ever at it. But it's still a thing of, it was a big play. And this is the thing, when I look at Arsenal now and I see one of the worst teams in Premier history frustrate them last weekend. The reason that doesn't happen as much to Guardiola, and it has happened where players have bad games, the reason it doesn't happen as much is because the brand of play is it works against everything, and I think that's the thing that makes an 88-point season win. What did Liverpool get last year? I think it was like 85. Did they get 84? Maybe
it was quite low in the end. Yeah.
I think that's where it becomes. We've won the league, got 6 dead games till the end of the season. However, you're going to still go there. You're going to still win every single week, and I think that's the thing of what has led to that. So it was obviously a big question, but it's certainly a thing of like, why have the point totals? Because I do have myself thinking, if Fergie was in this era, 101 points. This is mental stuff. Like, seriously, and I think Fergie is one of the... Obviously, no doubt these two are the only two that can sit at the table. But I do look at it in this era and I'm like, what would Fergie have done in this era? Like, you could say in some of the seasons where he won it on 80, they took the foot off the pedal a little bit. But can you imagine Fergie allowing that? I think that you play up and down to competition. There's elements of that. But I don't know, Guardiola doesn't seem to... Like, obviously Centurion gave you something to go at, didn't it? You had it. But you
it was unprecedented, and it became a thing when we were like, this is possible. And that season, we just broke record after record after record.
But you had it... United came second with Jose with 80, right?
Yeah, you did. That was the season, actually, where... I just wanted to say something on this, Alex, and talking about Pep Guardiola and his era in the Premier League. Now, a lot of the lazy narrative from rival fans, they will tell you it was a farmers' league and all this bullshit, like, when we were winning league after league, and that's what City have turned it into. Do you know what? We didn't. We were only ever in one title race, which was heavily one-sided. And I'm not being facetious here, but it was against your boys. That was the only one. And it was like at Christmas I felt it was wrapped up. That was the only time I really thought, I'm not concerned this year. Every other time, teams have pushed us to the limit. Most of the times, we've been behind with 2 months to go. And we've had it to chase. But what Pep has done is created that pack of hunting wolves, and they'll always take you down. And that's what he was good at. And I think
you've been 30 minutes away from the end of the season being behind.
Yeah, of course. And this is it. But
that's as close as it could get, right?
100%, mate, yeah. And another thing, though, with when we were talking about different styles of play and what Pep brought, you're saying about Arsenal and how they're currently struggling. We watched them struggle against Wolves and they were passing it around a bit aimlessly. They didn't really know the next step. With Pep Guardiola, he created that system of, we're going to boa constrictor the opponents into a situation where we'll nullify any threat they have. So, in terms of Premier League teams, you'd go, what are the big problems when he came to league? You go, you're not going to do this shit over here, son. The counter-attacking in England, it's rough as fuck, they're too physical. He penned them in, and they couldn't get out. And then we were bopping it around, and even before they got say, got to the edge of their box, it'd be going out wide, it'd be coming back in. They couldn't cope, and this is what Pep did. He masterminded all of it. So,
Do you think that's going back to the point of Fergie and the Fergie versus Pep argument of he couldn't win a league with Darren Gibson and Tom Cleverley and Anderson and these sorts of players that Fergie, I have no idea what he did to them, to be honest, because I don't know how even Fergie did it.
Yeah.
But do you think that's because it's the peaks and troughs of the Guardiola playbook, is that when I'm rolling and when I've got my guys and when they're all fit, when they're firing, I've got my 5-star squad, we are invincible. I know before they come for me, I know you're not invincible, and we know that fan base talking about. But do you think that's the elements of the difference between it is where, like, Fergie's style wasn't the same playbook. I can tell you a Fergie style of play, but it wasn't to the degree of this guy, where it's like, it's almost like NBA like, where that's my play, that's my pick and roll, that's my 3-pointer shooter in the corner sort of playbook. That's how Guardiola plays football. Do you think that's the peaks and troughs of it, where if there's a drop off in talent, it struggles to live? There's no in between. 100 points, 97. Or we're all the way down at like 80. It'd be interesting to look at that, actually, City's points totals. Have you ever had an 88? It always feels like
we've either blew it away or
like high 70s. So you've not won the league in 3 seasons. Probably should have looked at this before we came on. Or it's been 97, 99, 100. And is that the difference, Christian, where it's like that talent drops off a little bit? It's hard for those to play that way every single week.
I think that's what it is as well. And I mean, if you look at what Fergie could get that extra 10, 20, probably 30% out of players that really didn't even have the ability level to be playing at the stages of competitions they were at. Do you know what I mean? Fielding players he put out in Champions League finals and in Premier League title runs. I do agree with you. Even as a Man City fan, I don't believe Pep could get the same out of a pretty mid player. I don't think he can push them and get that extra 20-30% out of them that puts them in a position where they can actually hold a weight in an argument of a Premier League title run. I think that is where Fergie takes the edge. But I think if you give Pep 3 years and he can build his own squad and then mould them and get these guys under his wing and he can create monsters, I feel like them monsters look more scary than what Fergie could get that extra 30% out of.
I agree, because I think I look at like United's 5-star teams. You can pick at the 2, probably 99. I know you're obviously born in 1996, so you don't recall that live. Yeah. And then you have 2008, which obviously you remember very well. And if we treat 2008 was an all-time great, talented side. There was no holes in it. Obviously, they won the Champions League. They won 3 leagues in a row. So, and got to another final as well, which we lost to Barca. But the point is, it's like, with that, we had a tight Champions League final against Avram Grant's Chelsea, and we also had a tight title chase with Avram Grant's Chelsea, and they were a good side, but they were a little bit in a little bit in between eras, where you were coming off the back of the Jose era, and you had an interim coach. I mean, where's Avram Grant now? Nobody. And John Terry doesn't slip, and they win the Champions League final. Yeah. Our finals are a different entity. I know Inter Milan put City through the ringer as well, so finals can go like that. But we were in a tight title race. I think we lost to Chelsea in the title run-in. Wayne Rooney injured his hip in the game, and I think that put us on the brink. And I think we won it on the last day at Wigan, which really we should have been blowing that Chelsea side away. We were a much talented squad than them, and I think that's element to your point, where it has been like, I do look at that 08 side. Why was that not 97 points?
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say, Alex, you pretty much answered my question, but what is it you think, like that 08 side, in a way, it sounds weird, doesn't it? Because at the time, you're going to say, well, of course he didn't underperform, it did exactly what we wanted it to do. But at the same time, when you actually deep dive into it, could there have been more gotten out of that? I mean, it doesn't really matter. Look, we play to win the Premier League. So if you win the league, you win the league. It really doesn't matter. The argument ends there. But like we're saying, that extra little bit, what we were talking about, that extra 10, 15 points, do you not think Fergie really should have got that out of them? Because they were that good, right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I'm looking at the league table now. United won the league on 87, Chelsea were 85, and Arsenal were 83. We were considerably better than those two sides, talent-wise. Now, look, the Champions League, we had 2 hellish semi-final legs against Barcelona. in the Champions League, and we barely got out of that alive, and then we paid for it in the final next year when they were obviously better, and then in 11 when they went to like insane stage. So you could point to that, I guess, where I suppose maybe either side of those two legs against Barca, were we at it in the league? Possibly not. I don't know the fixtures, maybe. But we had the best player in the world in Ronaldo at the time, and Rooney and Tevez. I mean, that front three is insane, right?
Do you think it could have been a part of this? Could have been that, look, if you're scheduled to work till 6, are you going to work till 7? Do you reckon it could have been a little bit of that?
I think if you're within 2 points, though, I think that's dicing with death a little bit. Like I said, we beat Wigan on the last game of the season, Christian, and we weren't great in that game. And I think we were 1-0 up from a Ronaldo pen for most of it. So my memory is, I'm sure anybody might be able to correct me here, but I think Ryan Giggs iced it in the last 5 minutes. We were 1-0 up at Wigan. Maybe a draw would have seen us through. We would have won it on goal difference with a draw. So obviously not losing was the key there. But playing down to your competition and then you go to the last day, I'm not sure about that. I think it's just elements of, like I said, I think in that season I remember games like away at Borough, who were a poor side. Where did Middlesbrough come? I remember this game specifically. 13th. And it was like we drew 2-2 in a bit of a mad game. It was snowing, I remember it. And it was like end to end. And I think they nearly won it in the last minute. And I think of a Guardiola team, and I just don't see that. A great Guardiola team ain't struggling against bottom half teams in a title chase at all. And I think that's the difference where the chaos ball of Fergie, heavy metal you worded it, it does open the door to a skiddy result. And I think that's why. Whereas Guardiola, mate, they know it. The players know
ultimately,
it.
Alex,
they can play with their eyes shut.
We saw it, didn't we? So when we were coming up against Jurgen Klopp, ultimately, yes, were they the more attractive team to watch on the day? If City and Liverpool were playing at the same time and we both were against decent opponents, who would you rather watch? I'll even be honest and say, probably Liverpool. They were chaotic. That Mane, Firmino, Salah, it was just ridiculous. It was a joy to watch. But at the same time, like you said, Alex, it does open the door up for mistakes. Pep's, you might go, oh, it's boring, they pass teams to death. Yeah, but other teams couldn't deal with it. And ultimately, we end up with more points than the teams that are playing different ways. So it does work.
I do, and also it does reach aesthetic heights itself. Like when you went to Arsenal in like 2018, maybe, and you were like 3-0 up in, I don't know, no time at all. That was some of the best. One of the best performances I've ever seen in the Prem. So it does have its heights. Silva was amazing in that game, but it was like like you said, like a Sterling was playing in that game. He was great. Sammy Aguero from 3.
I think, Alex, that's just one thing, mate, and I know you probably have some thoughts on this, and it is one thing that annoys me with Pep's haters and people that just, in my opinion, don't watch enough of football, or certainly not enough of what Pep Guardiola has done. There is numerous occasions where this guy has created monsters that you would have never expected. And I feel like I can give you a lot of examples at my club. There's examples at Barcelona. Do you think it's one thing that he is unfairly criticised? That, you give him a blank checkbook and he'll do damage. I think it's just a bit of a harsh criticism, but what do you think?
Well, if we just talk about blank checkbooks, if you win with a blank checkbook, what's the criticism? Is he not doing what he should do anyway? Like, I don't get it. Why is it deemed you've won but you've signed? Well, that tells me you've signed well. So
especially when every club he's up against also has the blank checkbook.
Yeah, look,
they just spend it
their fair share. Arsenal have gone past City. Chelsea have gone past City.
I'm saying every other club that he's competing with has the same blank checkbook.
Exactly. So look, but going back to your point, this guy. This is the thing with going back to the Barca days. People are mistaken of how Pep Guardiola built that Barca team. If you go back and look at Catalan media in 2007-8, when he was coming up from Barca B to Barca first team, they were not happy with him going, I don't want Ronaldinho, I don't want these players, I don't want Deco, I don't want Yaya Toure eventually. Zlatan he shipped. Henry he shipped. Like, look, he was ruthless with that squad, and people at the time were like, what is this guy doing? We love Eto'o. We love Ronaldinho. Yeah. We love Yaya. Like, what is he doing? And he's going, nah, Busquets, you come in, mate. Iniesta, Messi, Villa, Pedro. These guys came in and took a lot of Catalan media's favourite players. And this is the point of making where, like, a lot of those are homegrown academy players. And it takes a lot to do that. Barca in 2007, there's a reason Rijkaard got sacked. They lost to United in the semi-final of the Champions League. I don't think they were winning the leagues at the right clip. And he comes in, and there was pressure. There's always pressure. Barcelona have to win every single season. For him to come in and go, Ronaldinho, get to fuck, mate. Zlatan, he saw 6 months of Zlatan, get rid. I want Messi as false nine. These are big, big time decisions to be made. And I think that people talk about, obviously, Pep and Fergie. And you mentioned before about similarities. They both built a team homegrown. Like, just because one had Messi and one didn't, doesn't make it any less impressive. You still take balls to do that. Because I tell you right now, when Messi came into that team, people were like, we don't want Ronaldinho to be sold. People can go and say, not saying they didn't want Messi to start, clearly Messi was ready at 17, but it's still the class of 92 thing of, Alan Hansen, you can't win anything with kids. It applies to Pep's Barca. It's just because our interpretation is, he just got this golden generation. Do you not think that Giggs and Scholes...
education and actually watching
what's at play? Giggs and Scholes are two of the best players ever talent-wise. There's a reason the class of 92 was great. Fergie deserves credit because of the bollocks it took to go... You're Alan Hansons of the world on Match of the Day going, what is he doing? Do you not think Pep had the same doubt as in Catalan media? So to go that it's all blank checkbook is absolute horseshit. He built a fantastic Barca team, but think how many of them are homegrown, Christian. You go through the whole team. Piqué, Iniesta, Busquets, Xavi, the full midfield, Pedro, Messi. How many is that? They all started the final in 2011, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty huge clip of the team. 6 or 7 starters in the Champions League final were all homegrown from Pep. That's not blank checkbook. Okay, what David Villa and Mascherano? Are you really? Is that what you're telling me? David Villa's all-time great, by the way. But I'm just saying, is that and Dani Alves? Is that what makes you go? It's not. So it's the same principle as Fergie's class of '92. We just deem it differently because we go Iniesta, wow, Xavi, wow, Messi, go. But it's the same principle. Giggs and Scholes were fucking insane. Beckham was amazing as well. I hear you. I suppose you echo my thoughts on the Barca thing. I know you love Pep, obviously.
Some great calls there, and I like a lot of the names you mentioned at Barcelona. And this is what people overlook, Alex. They don't actually look into the history books. And like you say, now it's just easier because if you say, Iniesta, Xavi, all these players, Busquets, it's so easy to go, they had them all. That was fine. Yeah, but they didn't just drop out of thin air. Like, this guy did pioneer it. And I think, by the way, I like the comp to, what Fergie did. So these are things that are overlooked. And I think at my neck of the woods of what he's done at Manchester City, there's certain players that stand out that I think he deserves immense credit for.
Let me tell you something. When Deco and Yaya Toure were shipped out of that midfield in 2008, he played Yaya Toure centre-back, weirdly, in that final. Busquets started the Rome final in 2009. And I was like, we will run through them. We will truck them with this. What is he doing? You have to play Toure to combat United's athleticism that we had at the time.
Yeah.
He fucked that. I'll play Toure at centre-back with Piqué. And I'll play Busquets. I was like, who the fuck's Busquets? Well, I knew who Busquets was at the full time, Christian. I already knew about Iniesta, clearly, and Xavi, and obviously Messi was coming into your Ballon d'Or era. So, but he wasn't the Messi of 2011. But it's a point. It's exactly what you're saying there of, he had Busquets. Yeah, well, why? He had Busquets because he promoted him.
Exactly. He saw it. He pioneered it, and then that guy went on to be an all-timer.
Christian, I want to ask you something on just going back to the City side of the discussion. How scary is the post Pep Guardiola era? I probably should have asked you this first, but we've just been chewing the fat on how great he is, and Fergie as well. We've given both of them the flowers. What is it like for you? I honestly think maybe Liverpool could say similar to them with Klopp, although they won a league title the year after, weirdly. I think mainly United and City fans can really
resonate.
On this, because I can, obviously 2013 isn't that long ago and I was 23 at the time, so I remember it very clearly. What is it like the post Pep era? You're going into pre-season, we'll get into the replacements in a minute, whoever it is. What is your feeling like, and how you mentioned, you made a great point about the cloak of invisibility. How do you feel generally about the post Pep era?
Yeah, mate, I'm terrified because we've never been faced with this. The one thing that has always been certain that we knew Pep Guardiola was the coach, and we've never ever been in these discussions. Every other team has been chopping and changing, or there's been rumours of shall we get rid of the coach. That's just never been a part of what we were. A, because of how successful we were, and B, because Pep Guardiola has been the man since he came here. And there would never be anything changed. He was only ever going to leave of his own accord from day one. It does terrify me. Look, none of us like change to a certain extent, but this runs a little bit deeper. I think, where do you go from this? I hear a lot of people, Alex, when I've spoken to, whether it be Manchester United fans or Arsenal fans, whoever, even people you work with, and they go, so we sack him, but where do we go then? I hear Arsenal fans saying this about Mikel Arteta. Mikel Arteta, who's won an FA Cup, spent $1 billion and done fuck all else. Not being disrespectful or trying to rile anyone, I'm just saying the facts. Now, they will say to you, where would we go? Where can we replace this guy? Alex, imagine asking a Manchester City fan that has seen Pep Guardiola decimate the league, and you ask me, where do we go next? I honestly don't know. You would have to go with the known names, but they're not really attainable. Luis Enrique is not going to get up and leave PSG. That would be the one I would go with, but it's not going to happen. I hear City are in rumoured, not talks, but City are rumoured to be, looking at Enzo Maresca. Does it excite me? No, but in fairness, Alex, I will give whoever the chance, because there's not going to be a name that comes out the woodwork that doesn't make me think it's a downgrade on what we've had, because we can't get that level or above.
Everything is a step down. I mean, I remember having this conversation where I said Jose or Pep when Fergie went. I assume you don't want David Moyes.
Mate, if his leaving present is dragging some donut onto the pitch and going, I want you to support him, I tell you what, I'll be I will not be an happy boy.
Just going back to the Fergie Pep debate, that's going in the negative column for Fergie, that he made David Moyes manager after him.
It has got to be. There's a lot of reasons why
it goes in the bad signing category. He signed him. It's his decision, and look, but anyway. There's no look. It's all good. It's all in the past now. But it is just funny looking at this situation with City going. Can you imagine City going? Right, he's actually back at Everton now. Let's give experienced coach David Moyes the reins after Pep. That's how mental it was. United fans won't like this but I'm telling you, that was a step towards the rot. Was going with a mid-table coach.
He put a guy in there that was absolutely out of his depth and was always going to sink. The guy was never going to be able to swim. But at the same time, Alex, City as a club, we are well run from the bottom to the top. And I've always had confidence. Look, they seem to have sorted out, you know me, Alex, I've been critical of, a lot of our transfers of late, but it does look like they've improved it. We've got some really good signings in. I mean, Cherky for 30 million is just ridiculous business, looking at that now, knowing that what other players have gone for, reverts. But, if you look at what we're capable of after Pep, it does worry me where we're going to go. I know City are going to look to keep the same style, and I think that's why you're hearing Enzo Maresca's name, because he's worked on a Pep. I think City are going to want some sort of Pep disciple, put it that way.
Continuity.
We're not going to go and rip it up and go and get someone you're not going to expect, I'll tell you that right now. It's either going to be someone that has been very closely affiliated with Pep Guardiola, whether it's one of his backroom staff. Honestly, it's more likely to be someone that works under him that you don't even know the name of than it is to be a known manager that you do know the name of but plays a different brand of football.
Like Villanova at Barcelona. Rest in peace to him, by the way. Yeah. But the same principle of he left Barca and it was like Tito Villanova comes in and it was seamless. Obviously, the poor bloke got ill and unfortunately passed away. But yeah, just before we get to replacement and some names, you've mentioned a couple. Has it surprised you, very welcome surprise, that he stayed for 10 years, if this is it, 10, it's a full decade at Manchester City compared to his shorter stints at Barca and Bayern, with no disrespect here, way greater history. It feels like he's enjoyed the challenge of putting City at that table rather than the maintaining the status of a Bayern and a Barca. Has that surprised you in taking yourself back to 2016? We all probably expected 4 years. That's just what he does, and then he goes somewhere else. What's it been like for you going through that, where it's been like, wow, 5 years, 6 years, 7, 10, how has it been, like the sort of year by year process with this?
So I think if we'd have had this conversation in 2016, it would have been a very straightforward conversation. I'd have gone, let's just get a few good years out of this guy and then we'll enjoy him. He's going to go off into the sun, like you said. But then I think, as much as I was saying at the start of the video, Alex, that this guy has left a serious imprint on English football and Manchester City, I think Manchester City has left a serious imprint on this guy as well. And I think it is why he has stayed the length of time that he has. Even in the summer, look, he's like wearing like a retro City shirt at an Oasis concert. That this guy bought into the culture. He owns restaurants in Manchester. He owns multiple properties. He really did engulf himself in the Manchester culture, and I think this is why he is loved, he's adored, and he is going to be solely missed, and not just because of his ability and that he is a mastermind for what he's done for my club. It's hard to get them characters that really buy into it. And I don't know, I'm not saying he never did this at Bayern Munich or, of course he did at Barcelona. That is his home and that is his true love, being a Catalonian. But I think sometimes something just works or something just fits. And it did with Pep at City. He loves City and City loves him. And I think that's the way it went. It'll be a tough one to see him go because it doesn't grow on trees, even if you can get a successful manager. I mean, you take Jose Mourinho, for instance, even when he was in his successful period, it always felt a bit soulless. There was a genuine disconnect between the fans and him, and it always felt like 3 bad results, he'd be shushing the fans. There did feel a genuine disconnect. There was not that real love, and I feel like that's where what we've had of Pep Guardiola, and that's why it can't be understated.
I think that's what separates him and Fergie from the rest, because you're right. They've created this aura about them where it doesn't really matter if they come third. They have got almost unlimited money in the bank,
Credit in the
pun
bank,
intended.
yeah.
And that to me is what separates them both. And I think that the point you made about him coming to Manchester and loving it and stuff like that, I think that's such a great thing to talk about. And I've been low-key wanting this day forever, and now that it's potentially coming, there is an element of me, even as a United fan, that's a little bit sad, actually. I thought the day you text me saying Pep's going would be a great thing for me.
Yeah.
And it's not felt like that. Even if you asked me yesterday, and when we went out for a beer and you went, would you want Guardiola to go? I'd be like, oh my God, I've been waiting for this. No offense. Obviously, probably the same for you and Fergie.
Yeah.
And now it's actually come. There's actually an element in me that's like got a little bit of sadness, which is quite strange, and I don't know. I do know why, but I'm a bit surprised as a United fan that
do you know why it is though, Alex? Is because true United fans, like you made a great point, the only other club that can really resonate with what City fans will go through upon hearing this news is ironically our arch rivals in Manchester United who have been through this. And look, it was the exact same for me, to be honest. As much as it was, Jesus, I suffered a lot in my younger years supporting Man City, and opposing Fergie's United. But, when he decided time was time, and I listened to his speech when he was leaving, after I finished laughing that Moyes was going to be going there. But, there was that respect. And fuck me, I don't think we'll ever see this again. And I think Pep's the closest thing we're ever going to see to it. So, yeah, I think, look, mate, he has done amazing things in England. And look, we'll do another video on this. I'm not saying it's official. David Ornstein has obviously reported this. Me and Alex are not sat here saying it's concrete. He could surprise us all. There is an option to trigger another year. But, David Ornstein doesn't usually release things without some smoke in the background. So I think, and to be fair, Alex, I think, look, if this guy, in recent times, he's had some challenging things going on for him personally, and, the club hasn't gone as smoothly in the last couple of seasons that he would have liked. If he thinks it's time, then who are we to tell him? Do you know what I mean? The one thing I would like is that City seemingly now are back on track and we look like we could get another title. I would have rather, obviously it's not his fault that this news has come out, but it is a bit frustrating. It's like a distraction we didn't really need in the background. I don't want to be hearing rumours that City are in talks with Enzo Maresca to take over. If you're going to do anything, look, I understand this is a business. It's a multi-billion-pound business and they've got to run it. And ultimately they will need someone to step in, but we need to keep the noise as quiet as possible while we frustrate Arsenal yet again.
Let's say he's going, right? Pep Guardiola will know right now. Fergie knew when he signed Van Persie, that was it. And obviously Fergie managed to keep it under wraps completely. Pep looks like a leak has come out somewhere. If he's going, he's going. Facts are facts, right? Could you glass half full it? And I know you don't want the noise, every presser, Pep, your last trip to here, your last trip to there, your last Manchester derby. But could it galvanise the team in a way of, let's say Arsenal stabilise a little bit and at least push you, which obviously is another conversation for another day, but let's say hypothetically this goes to the last game, right? Could you, as fans and the club and Pep, use this in a glass half full way
Yeah.
to galvanise the whole club, to send him out on a Premier League win, the way it happened with Fergie? Is there a possibility of that? I know it's obviously difficult.
Yeah, Alex, it's a great question, mate. And the reason I'm going to say yes, that I believe there won't be any sort of negative impact, and it will actually spur these guys on.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the difference is because what we were talking about earlier on in this video with what Pep Guardiola can get out of individuals, and similar to Alex Ferguson, I think other managers or other teams would use this as a distraction or whatever. You know, imagine Arsenal. If any sort of God, if any distraction was going on, that was the reason. Christ, they said it was because the Queen had died that year. But City
They won't
aren't
be
going to
happy
do
with
that.
this. They won't be happy with this.
City aren't gonna...
Guardiola leaving has given them a boost.
Oh, mate, on it, they'll dig it all out, won't they? But no, I do not feel like it'll have a negative impact. In fact, fortunately for Arsenal, I think it'll spur these guys on. If Pep's going out, bro, he ain't going out with no Premier League title, because the Don doesn't walk like that, and he's not doing that. Fergie left with the crown, rightfully so. The better man won that year. Fergie took it back off City. There's no way he walks out with no Premier League, so City take that Prem.
100%. Okay, let's finish on replacements. We've saved the best bit till last. Okay, so obviously Enzo Maresca, you've touched on him. He has been name dropped by Ornstein, and like you said, when we spoke earlier today, and I could tell straight away, and I was a bit the same with Maresca. You know, the name doesn't jump out, but then on reflection, before we came on here, I actually started to think about Maresca, and I was a bit like, you know what? I don't even know how to grade the poor bloke, because that club, I don't believe he's signing these players. I just don't believe it. They sign players with market value, and potentially can resale and keep their FFP above float. And I don't know, he did win the Club World Cup. That does take a good effort. They beat PSG in the final, so he can, and they're a pretty reasonable top 4 team, I'd say. I don't know if it's that bad. I think that there's too much unknown with Maresca, but I don't think he's necessarily bad, if that makes sense. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I think I'm very similar to you. How do you grade a guy that has walked into an absolute shit show? And to be fair to him, he has steadied the ship, and other managers couldn't do this. So, you know, look, it is a mess at Chelsea. They've got a ridiculous sized squad. They've got so many players with bad attitudes. I mean, how is anyone managing them lot? It's like in set 8 in maths, if you're a school teacher and they go in and all the mad heads are in one class. You know what I mean? That is what I imagine going into that Chelsea on day
and
one.
He's the supply teacher getting bullied.
Yeah. So I don't know how he's managed to steady that ship, so, you know, credit to him there. But in terms of taking over from one of the greatest managers of all time, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'd have to see more.
Would you go Kompany over Maresca if you could?
Honestly, yeah, because I feel like Kompany... That my biggest thing with Kompany would have been, do not give it Vincent Kompany if it's just this, you know, kind of the United thing. Like, give it Ollie, give it fucking Carrick, anyone. And it's not... That would have never been the right reason to give him the job. The right reason would be, we want to play football this brand of way, or whatever, and Vincent Kompany resonates with that. That would only be the thing that makes this the right choice, but...
As a general though, do you think there's... Are you leaning towards project manager, or would you be satisfied with a very experienced coach to come in and just give you a couple of years of solid football, or would it just be too scary to go away from that? So what I'm asking you is, let's pick 2 coaches: Hansi Flick at Barcelona, Carlo Ancelotti at Brazil. 2 fantastic coaches, experience-wise. They've won at the top level, still at the top level, both of them. However, they're not a disciple of Pep Guardiola. Maresca Kompany, disciples, but not got the experience. Where are you on the Flick Ancelotti category and the Maresca Kompany category?
That is a tough one. And I think it's be careful what you wish for, isn't it? Because everyone would like to say the emotional answer would be, you know, Vincent Kompany, Maresca. They've learnt from Pep, and you feel like Pep's still a part of it. You know what I mean? The soul remains, or whatever bullshit. But the reality is, Alex, winning titles is not fucking easy. It's not for the faint-hearted. You don't come in and just win a Premier League. Even Pep Guardiola found that out. Fergie found that out. And that's what worries me with an appointment of a Maresca or a Vincent Kompany. Put it this way, Alex. I will answer the question, okay? So, if Manchester City fans want instant... They don't want to see us fall off a cliff, possibly, and this being a 5-6 year Arsenal-esque rebuild, or dare I say it, Man United. Now, if you don't want that, then you can never risk the emotional appointments of Vincent Kompany or any sort of Pep disciple. But if you want to keep this ticking, keep the train rolling, then you have no choice but to go for a brand that might not necessarily be the one that has been in place for a decade. So
yeah, it is. I mean, it's very difficult, isn't it? I mean, I love Fergie with every bone in my body, but David Moyes didn't tick the connection point. He didn't tick the style of play. He didn't tick the experience. Ollie, I know what you mentioned Ollie there, right? Ollie, for me, gave the best football post Fergie, and he has nowhere near got the credibility or the coaching experience of some of his compatriots that come in.
I agree, yeah.
And that's a point that does lead you towards. I know, look, you can't compare Ollie, Kompany, United City, but I'm just saying that we did do the Van Gaal, we did the Jose, we did all of them, and they had okay success, but Ollie did do a third and a second back-to-back with a much shitter squad than them guys. So it does sometimes make you think, like, look, I think Hansi Flick's great. And if you can get Hansi Flick or Enrique, I would 100% do that.
Yeah. They're not realistic though, Alex.
If they're, obviously, we're talking about the PSG and the Barca coach here. Ancelotti looks like he's probably sailing into the sunset as an international coach. So these names, I'm spitballing, I'm more asking you a situational question rather than a name, because I don't think Ancelotti is going to leave Brazil. I think he's going to probably sail out into retirement there. But it's more, I'm just giving you categories of coaches, and that's where Ollie for me was the best one.
Do you want me to give you a realistic answer of what I think our options would be? Take out the Barca and the PSG coach, because we know realistically, them guys don't lose their managers.
Yeah.
Not to us, not to a fellow big boy. So what our realistic options would be is we go down the Pep disciple route, so that would be a Maresca, maybe even someone we haven't heard of, or Vincent Kompany.
Yeah.
Now, and even Vincent Kompany's managing fucking Bayern, man. That's no easy thing to get him out of there.
Yeah,
the only thing with Vincent Kompany is that he loves City as much as we love him. So that is an option. But I would go them guys, because the only other option to them will be a Ruben Amorim-esque, he's won a Portuguese league, he's won a Dutch league. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I feel like if you are going to go with a gamble, look, go with the calculated one. At least it keeps someone that's going to keep the brand of football the way it has been for 10 years, and not some div that's going to come in and go, I'm ripping everything up that's been here the last 10 years, I'm changing it all, we're going doing this. That I would never risk that. The only way that risk could possibly be worth it is if you go and get a top echelon manager like a Luis Enrique, and then I would accept it.
Of course, no, I totally hear you, and I agree with your points, by the way. Look, it was a surprise today, and it was fun talking. We're going to obviously revisit this as it progresses. If the news becomes a bit more concrete, God forbid, even if City actually announced it. I know Klopp announced it very early. Fergie did not. He went all the way to the end. However this progresses, and obviously in the summer we'll certainly be doing an episode if it is the end for Pep Guardiola.
I think of Pep, Alex, you know what? I love getting into Pep, Fergie, and you know I'm very complimentary of Fergie. It wouldn't be some bullshit slanging match. We've both got a lot of good points to make, and I think that would make for such an interesting video.
Sure thing, yeah. If you want to see us do a Pep Fergie video, and if you have any thoughts on the debate, hit us up and we can mention it on another one. Maybe we can schedule it for a little Christmas episode. I don't know, but it was great, and obviously he is an absolute all-time great. And like I said, I think a good way to wrap it from my perspective is that it isn't the happiness that I probably thought it would be, just because it is sad to lose minds like him in the Prem. The same way, maybe Luis Suarez going to Barcelona, as much of a twatter that he was, he was one of the best players in the world. Bale, Cristiano.
Ronaldo, yeah.
These players leaving the country and obviously managers. We want the best. I don't want Jurgen Klopp managing in Spain. I don't want Pep Guardiola managing back in Bundesliga. But no, it was great. Obviously, thank you, Christian, on this very unique day. I think
I really enjoyed it. Look, I really enjoyed it, and thank you to Pep Guardiola for giving me times I never thought I'd see at my club. It has been one hell of a fucking ride, man. But yeah, let's wrap this league up. Let's go out in style, and let's keep winding up Arsenal.
yeah. If you put them second in Guardiola's final season, that's got to be absolute poetic ending.
Imagine Julian, Alex.
Our mate Julian. He'll be saying like, well, they're leaving, so it doesn't count.
Bro, it was actually when I was saying about the Queen. That was another one of his clips where he was like, "We must not forget, Robbie, the Queen dying." Oh. It's like, oh my God, what else are you going to bring up, man?
Anybody listening to this, we did a very, very short clip on one of our larger videos on Julian from AFTV's comments. So please go and have a look at it if you're at this point in the video, and hopefully you find it funny and comment about how ridiculous his comments were. I'm sure there'll be a lot more to come, so it could become a little bit of a series on the Football Brotherhood YouTube channel. Christy, thank you very much for joining me today. I appreciate it. If you've liked the video, hit a like, subscribe to the channel. Let us know in the comments what you think about Pep Guardiola leaving Manchester City. Thank you, Christy. Catch you on the next one.